If you've been doing everything right, watching what you eat, taking your medication as prescribed, trying to stay active, and your blood sugar still feels unpredictable, I want you to pause for a moment and consider something that almost no one talks about. Because over the years, I've seen many people in their 60s and 70s follow every recommendation they were given, yet still feel like their numbers had a mind of their own. One day, everything looks stable. The next day, it doesn't, even though nothing obvious has changed. And what makes this even more frustrating is that the advice they receive often becomes more restrictive. Adjust your diet, increase your medication, be more careful, as if the issue is always about control. But in many cases, the problem isn't what you're doing wrong. It's something that's quietly missing from the foundation. Something so simple that it's easy to overlook. And because it's so basic, it's rarely explained in detail. I'm talking about how your body handles hydration. Not just how much water you drink, but how your body actually uses it. Because blood sugar doesn't only depend on what enters your bloodstream. It also depends on how efficiently your body moves glucose into your cells. And that process is influenced by your internal environment in ways that most people never consider. Once you understand this, many of the confusing patterns you've been experiencing begin to make much more sense. As we get older, the way the body manages fluids changes in subtle but important ways. You may not feel as thirsty as you used to, even when your body needs hydration. Your kidneys don't conserve fluids as efficiently, and the signals that tell your body to distribute water properly are not as responsive as they once were. None of this feels dramatic, which is why it often goes unnoticed. But internally, these small shifts begin to influence how your body functions throughout the day. And one of the areas where this becomes especially relevant is how your body responds to insulin. Insulin's role is to help move glucose from your bloodstream into your cells, where it can be used for energy. But for that process to work smoothly, your cells need to be in a state where they can receive that signal effectively. When hydration is inconsistent, the environment inside your body becomes less supportive of that process. Not because something is broken, but because the conditions are not optimal. This can make your readings feel less predictable, even if your routine hasn't changed. And this is where many people feel stuck, because they are focusing on what they are eating, while the issue may be happening at a different level entirely, one that is influenced by daily habits that seem unrelated at first. Now let's talk about something that might change how you look at your daily routine. Many people assume that as long as they drink enough fluids during the day, they are covered. But the body doesn't respond to hydration in a simple on and off way. It responds to patterns. When hydration is uneven, on, for example, very little in the morning, then more later in the day, your body spends long periods trying to adjust. And during those periods, certain processes don't function as smoothly as they could. One of those processes is how glucose is handled after meals and how stable your levels feel between them. Another factor that often gets overlooked is the type of fluids people rely on. Coffee, tea, juices, and other beverages are very common, but they don't always provide the same support as plain water when it comes to how your body distributes fluids internally. This doesn't mean you need to eliminate them, but it does mean they shouldn't replace water entirely, because your body depends on water in its simplest form to maintain balance. And when that balance is off, even slightly, it can influence how steady or unsteady your day feels. Another detail that rarely gets discussed is how temperature plays a role. Most people don't think twice about drinking very cold water, especially in the morning. It feels refreshing and it seems harmless. But your body reacts to temperature in ways that can affect how efficiently fluids are absorbed and used. After a night of rest, your body is already in a slightly different state. Slower circulation, lower internal activity. Introducing very cold water at that moment can create a mild stress response, where your body has to adjust before it can actually use what you've consumed. This doesn't cause a dramatic reaction, but over time, small inefficiencies like this can contribute to how your body responds throughout the day. A more supportive approach is to keep things simple. Water that is closer to room temperature, especially in the morning, tends to align better with how your body naturally functions at that time. Again, this is not about strict rules, but about understanding how small adjustments can support your system rather than work against it. Now let's move into the part that makes the biggest difference, and at the same time, the part that is most often overlooked: timing. Because when it comes to hydration, your body does not respond only to how much you drink, but to when you drink it. Think about how your day typically begins. After several hours of sleep, your body has gone without fluids. And yet many people delay drinking water. They start with coffee, they move into their routine, and hydration becomes something that happens later, almost as an afterthought. But during those early hours, your body is already trying to regulate itself. Natural hormonal changes occur in the morning. Your system is preparing for activity, and if hydration is missing at that moment, your body has to compensate. This can influence how steady your levels feel throughout the rest of the day. A simple shift, drinking water shortly after waking, helps support your body at a time when it is most receptive. It creates a more stable starting point. And this is not about large amounts, it's about consistency. A moderate amount, taken calmly, allows your body to absorb and use it efficiently. From there, another key moment appears before meals. When you hydrate a short time before eating, your body is better prepared to process what comes next. The response becomes smoother, more gradual, and less reactive. And when this pattern repeats day after day, your body begins to adapt to it in a positive way. There are also a few common habits that, while they seem harmless, can quietly work against this process. One of them is relying too heavily on beverages that are not plain water. Coffee, for example, is part of many people's daily routine, and there is nothing inherently wrong with that. But when coffee replaces water, especially early in the day, your body misses that initial support it needs. The same applies to juices or sweetened drinks, which may feel hydrating but can influence your internal balance differently. Another common pattern is drinking large amounts of water all at once, usually when thirst finally appears. By that time, your body is already trying to catch up, and large amounts taken quickly are not always used as effectively as smaller amounts spread throughout the day. This creates a cycle where hydration feels inconsistent, even if the total amount seems adequate. And then there is the habit of minimizing water intake in the evening to avoid waking up at night, followed by drinking very little earlier in the day as a result. While this may seem practical, it often shifts hydration away from the times when your body needs it most. These patterns are easy to overlook because they feel normal, but over time, they can influence how stable or unstable your system feels. So instead of thinking about hydration as something you either do or don't do, it helps to think of it as a rhythm, a simple structure that your body can rely on. For example, starting your day with water, then having a small amount before meals, and continuing with moderate intake during periods of activity. Not excessive, not forced, just steady. When your body begins to experience this consistency, it adapts. Processes that once felt unpredictable begin to settle into a more stable pattern. You may notice that your energy feels more even throughout the day, that your body responds more predictably to meals, and that overall, things feel less reactive. These changes are often subtle at first, but they build over time. And what's important here is that this approach does not require you to restrict anything or add complexity to your routine. It works alongside what you are already doing. It supports your body rather than trying to override it, and that is why it tends to be sustainable, because it fits naturally into daily life instead of disrupting it. So here's what I would suggest. Instead of trying to change everything at once, start with one simple adjustment. Tomorrow morning, before anything else, take a moment to drink a glass of water. Not rushed, not cold, just calmly. Then, as you move through your day, begin to notice when you typically drink and how that aligns with your meals and your activity. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to become aware. Because once you are aware of your patterns, you naturally begin to make better decisions. And over time, those small decisions create a different experience in your body. More stability, more predictability, and less of that constant feeling that things are out of your control. This is not about replacing anything you are currently doing. It is about supporting it, giving your body a more consistent environment so it can respond the way it is designed to. And when you approach it this way, the process becomes much less frustrating and much more manageable. If this gave you a new perspective, take a moment to reflect on your current routine. And if you know someone who might benefit from understanding this, share it with them. Sometimes the simplest changes are the ones that make the biggest difference over time.